What's up, guys, and welcome back to BitCast, episode 115 for the week of August 21st, 2023. I'm your host, Jake Martin, and on the show, as always, we have Landry Smith. What's up, dude?
Dude, good to see you, bro. I love these bi-weekly hangouts.
I was going to
It's
say,
nice.
it's been 2 weeks since we last talked. So much has happened.
Yes,
I mean,
a lot has not happened in the gaming space, which is maybe why we chose the topic we did today. But a lot has happened in life.
True. Yeah, I saw there was like hurricane earthquakes over there on the West Coast for the first time ever, I guess. So that was a bad time.
Yeah, anytime I tune into the pulse of the world, it is either depressing or terrifying, or maybe a little bit of both. And
just don't look at the news. It's a sad time every time. Ugh. Well, hey, we're not here to be depressing. I'm excited for this. When you initially pitched this idea, so a little behind the scenes baseball, Landry is the mastermind for our outlines. And so he threw this outline out, and a little bit of looking ahead. We're talking about Baldur's Gate 3, Charles Martinet, but the main topic is the PlayStation 3 games, and specifically our top ones. And so at first I was like, Landry, you had a PS3, I'm assuming, right? This was you grew up with this, or you had one?
Yeah, well, it was like it was my college years. I think PS3 maybe came out in 2006. I remember getting one in 2009, and I went ham on it, man. I went pretty hard into the PS3.
Yeah, so I was like, I don't know how much I can contribute, but I'm here today and I'm excited about this. I'm excited to talk about the PS3. But first, before we jump into any game related stuff, I gotta vent for a little bit, Landry.
Let's hear it, man. Let's hear it.
I am so tired of the hellscape that is Twitter/X now.
Dude, it is wild that you brought that up. I literally deleted it from my phone 2 days ago.
Okay.
I also am completely
I'm not alone.
over it. I still have it on my computer so I can check things and I can post things occasionally. Like if it's content that we're involved in, I'm going to give it a little push. I'll check in on, what the folks up at Nintendo Watcher are doing and a couple other buddies, but that's about it, man.
Yeah, I'm here to promote some stuff and engage with a few people that I like, but every time I go on there now, I'm just either annoyed or mostly just annoyed.
Same.
Here are the things. So two main things took over Twitter this week. It was the Ding Dong who reviewed or had a pretty weak take or silly take on the Starfield main menu. He had this tweet that was the physiognomy of main screens. It really tells you if they rushed it or not, blah blah blah. And everyone just blew up, and they just felt like they had to pile on and give their own hot take on this guy's bad take. And Twitter is just such a place of that. It is literally just throw out any bad take you want now and get engagement, or throw out any good take. But it has to be a reactionary or an inflammatory statement for it to get any engagement, like any social media platform now. And the worst part is that because now you can monetize your account based on engagement, people are more and more incentivized to do this. So literally people that have Twitter Blue, if they get a ton of engagement or reactions or comments or tweets or whatever, they get paid for that. And so I'm just this is the worst. This is the worst. This is the worst kind of social media that I could ever want, because all I'm seeing is just garbage takes or the same freaking posts every single day from Retro Games Twitter, where that's name a better game than these 3 games. Check out.
That's literally all it is. And I love Retro Gaming Twitter. It was so great for 5 years. And that's all that will show up in my timeline now is which of these 3 games is best, or Sonic or Mario, that kind of stuff. And it's I'm sorry to your podcast episode 2 weeks ago, which is a great conversation and debate. But if that's all, that type of content is all that you're seeing constantly, it just becomes boring. And honestly, it's not thought provoking in the way that I want things to be thought provoking. I don't care which one's better. I prefer to look at video games as almost like a text that you can deep dive into and analyze. And I prefer more interesting takes than that. And I'm not like on a high horse or anything. We're doing a top 5, top 6 list later on in today's episode, and that's fine. But it's the way that people are talking about games or engaging about them. It's so base level, and like everybody, it's like going to a shady bar that like you're probably going to see a bar fight at the end of the night. Like I feel like everybody who hops on Twitter is like engaging in that space where they're looking for a fight, or they're just ready to go hard into somebody. It's just not. It's not my style. Space. It's not. I'm like never one to say something negative to somebody like that. And
the difference I think between doing a thought like a podcast or any kind of like just written content, like you're at least putting a little bit more behind it, more than just trying to get somebody to respond with, no, this is my favorite game, you're wrong, or, oh, this is what I think of. Like it just, there needs to be more conversation than just that. There needs to be more, because like it's already been done a million times. Like we just need to have like more thought-provoking conversations than just this or that.
Yep.
Like it just needs to be more than that. And that's the beauty of podcasts, is you can put out the discussion and then have a back and forth that is a lot more productive and I would say civil, where you could just have a fun conversation about something like that, as opposed to just throwing out your take and then being done with it.
Yeah, I also like want a Twitter where, I mean, maybe if like 5% of my feed is things they think I'd like, but I'm tired of getting just like, I've gotten rid of all the accounts that do like the choose one of these 3 games, and they still show up on my feed all the time.
Everywhere.
It's like,
dude, you
go
can't
away.
Stop it.
I don't want to like block people because they're not doing anything malicious, but at the same time, you're just trying
to engagement. That's the problem. Is like that continues to get engagement. I have seen the same post of like, what's the first game that comes to mind when you see this logo, and it's like a PlayStation logo, and you're like, bro, I have seen this so many times. I was like, I have seen this exact same post like at least 4 or 5 times. Like, why do we keep on doing this? Who is out there that keeps on reposting or regurgitating this same exact content? Not that you can't do that, but in terms of just somebody who's in it all the time, I guess it's just so annoying. It's just like, oh,
yeah, it's like
I gotta leave this.
It's just like hanging out in the baby pool for 4 hours. Like get in the deep end, man. Like
that is a very, very good metaphor. It's like hanging out in the baby pool. Get in the deep end. Have a better conversation than, oh, PlayStation. Speaking of PlayStation, that's our topic of the show today, PlayStation 3 games. But before we do that, like I mentioned, we're talking about Baldur's Gate 3. Quick little news article about that and how it's got really great Metacritic scores. And then breaking today, Charles Martinet is officially retiring as the voice of Mario.
The end of an era.
So we'll just read off. We'll read off that quick news excerpt that came straight from Nintendo. And then, we'll jump into our topic of the show. But a bit of housekeeping for you guys. If you are a fan, please review. Write into us. We appreciate that. And you can write in just like Steven did. And he asked, are you guys excited about Mario Wonder? I'm not a huge 2D Mario person, but it looks like it's going to be a lot different than the new Super Mario Bros. Entries. Landry, we didn't get a chance to talk too much about Super Mario Bros. Wonder. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I wonder if Steven is one of those players who's just kind of maybe come up on the new Super Mario Brothers series, or maybe isn't super familiar with some of the old 2D games. Those games were brilliant, and they were innovative, and some of the best looking games of the era. So, I mean, if you grew up in the 90s or the 80s, I feel like Super Mario was the 2D games were much more, just well thought of and awesome. But the new Super Mario Brothers series it grew stale a little bit, I think, for a lot of people. There were 4 of them, I think. And the art style never really changed. And, the gameplay was pretty solid, but it was nothing that, blew your mind. And there was nothing really that came out of left field. Like everything that you played, you expected to see in a Mario game, except for there was that one level that everybody ever talks about in New Super Mario Brothers Wii U. That was like Van Gogh painting, and it was like, wow, they did something different finally, and it was so memorable.
Yeah.
And that may be the only thing you remember about that game, because everything else just kind of bleeds into the background of all 4 of those games. So yes, the new Super Mario Brothers series was a little dull and a little bland, but New Super Mario Brothers Wonder, like already with the one preview we've seen, I am completely sold. It looks just, I don't know, like new Super Mario Brothers on crack, or on like in like a Gen Z washing machine.
Don't say that. Don't say that. A Gen Z washing machine.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, it's like, so much is going on. There's so much eye candy on the screen at once, and it just was like rapid fire.
I'm excited too. Like, I think same to you. Like, I think we had so much time where we had the new Super Mario Bros. And like, just like Mario Kart 8 has kind of gotten stale. We've just had that for too long. It's like, we need something different. I never loved that art style in the first place, but this is bringing me back. I think when you see that, like, there is a pretty strong difference between what 3D Mario is doing. You know, Odyssey, he's throwing caps and transforming into things and going to all different kinds of cool, unique locations. And then New Super Mario Bros., you're just like, yep, still just running and jumping on things, and it all looks kind of the same.
Yeah, that is exactly right.
I think Mario Bros. Wonder is going to be a good jumping off point for a lot of folks who have never played a 2D game, and hopefully it does a lot for those who are a little tired like we are, maybe, to get us back in and excited about it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and it comes out, is it October?
Yeah, it's really close.
Gosh,
it's about a month and a half away.
That's so soon.
They're gonna have to give us some more information on it soon, you would think. So,
and then we have Super Mario Bros. Super Mario RPGs coming out soon too, right?
Yeah, and right in between those, or maybe like right after both of those, I have a birthday, which is nice. So I will definitely have those games by then. I think it's like 10 days within each other.
November 17th is when the RPG is coming out.
Wow, really? I thought it was October.
I thought so too.
Cool.
But this is great. This is fabulous. Yeah, October and November are going to be great months.
I'm excited about both those.
Heck yeah, dude. In the September, or no, this month, August, we have Sea of Stars. I don't know if you're picking that up, but I'm also very excited about that.
It looks super cool.
Yes. Well, anyways, thanks for writing in, Steve. Hopefully you pick it up. Let us know if you play it, and comment back on the show. We'll be happy to talk about it some more. All right, well, let's jump into the news, Landry. So let's talk about some Baldur's Gate 3, man.
Yeah, man, it's taken over the internet by storm.
By storm.
Thought you were right in the middle of a swig of water. Sorry about that.
Good. No. So it has a 96 on Metacritic right now.
Crazy, man.
And I tweeted this. I don't know how many days ago. I don't know if this inspired this question or not, or this topic, but I said the high praise of Baldur's Gate 3 really has me intrigued, but I still don't think it's a game that I'll enjoy. Games that are super open-ended. Am I saying that correctly? Yeah, super open-ended tend to overwhelm me. Am I making the wrong assumption?
Well, I mean, if that's not your type of game, I don't think you are. And honestly, like, just knowing the kind of gamer you are, I think this game might not be for you. You're not really into open world stuff either, are you?
Not unless it's like super compelling.
Yeah, like a Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom.
I mean, Tears of the Kingdom even. Now, we talked about this. I kind of sped through a lot of it because I was just like, there's not enough out there right now to intrigue me.
Well, you know, and that's the thing about some open world games is you can choose a linear path and carve your way straight through it, and that's okay. And it sounds like, I don't know anything about Baldur's Gate and whether it's open world or not. But I will say that, I will say that what I've read about the choices that you can make does scare me a little bit. I prefer a linear experience to an open world experience and an open choice experience. But I think even more than that, like just watching some of these video reviews, it seems like there's a lot of like Dungeons and Dragons mechanics, like dice rolls and stuff. And I'm not familiar with that stuff. And it is a little scary to me, but I can't not pick up a game or try a game that has so much buzz and a 96 on Metacritic, if it's coming to PS5, if it was going to live on PC for the rest of its life, listen, dude, I'm 35. I'm 35 years old. I've already chosen my hobbies. I'm not going to be a PC gamer. Okay. I've already started a family. That's too much money to invest.
I just can't do it. I just can't.
Even with the Steam Deck being a relatively cheap option. I'm out on that, man. So, unless it's like, something I could emulate, like a really old PC thing, like I'm fine picking it up 30 years later if it's going to be a PC title.
So, I mean, this is why I asked this. So you're the kind of person, and this is the kind of the thing I'm struggling with, because if a game is this good, if a game is getting this much high praise across the board and people are like, holy smokes, like this is really impressive. This is the new benchmark for a game like this. It always isn't going to intrigue me. And as a person who's like a little bit more invested in like just games in general, I try to push myself outside of my traditional preferences,
Right.
So it's like, I might not like this game normally, but because everyone loves it and say it's like really, really, really good, I should probably check it out. And, I've done that for a few games and it's been successful. And I've really enjoyed that, like roguelikes, and that kind of brought me back into like Hades and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, these are really cool.
I had the same experience with those. I was not a fan.
But like, Deathloop was a bad scenario where everyone loved Deathloop, gave that game a 10 out of 10. And I jumped in there and I was like, this is not what I want.
That was weird. I think that game was at the dawn of the PS5. It was one of those new PS5 exclusives. So,
very stylistic, very like a Clockwork Orange kind of vibe to it, whatever. But it's just not my cup of tea. So
yeah,
you are going to try and pick it up. So PS5, it comes out. Is it next week?
I don't know. I haven't seen the release date. I knew when Baldur's Gate came out, I knew it was like coming a month later. But yeah, I will pick it up. I don't know if it's going to be an immediate thing or like by the end of the year thing, but I will pick it up. I will give it a shot. Dude, I love high fantasy. It's something that I've always enjoyed, and I love RPGs. So, the CRPG is a genre I just have never really played. So I am excited to get into something like this. Diablo didn't do it for me. So maybe this will be the thing that gets me.
Maybe this is it. Yeah, it comes out September 6th. So a little bit more time. But then you have, again, Sea of Stars coming out this week.
Dude, I'm more interested in Sea of Stars, to be honest.
I'm like, how much time is that going to take me to finish that game up? I got Final Fantasy 16 I'm still working through. Like, this is
gracious.
We're in a bad situation.
Yeah. I'm stoked that you're in Final Fantasy 16 because I am way more the Final Fantasy guy between the two of us.
Oh, I'm loving it. I wish I bought it digital or physical so I could share it with you. But I bought it digital. I couldn't.
That's all right. That's a game that I'm gonna add to the collection. I've got a large investment in Final Fantasy already. So
yeah. I played it. I played the demo and I was like, this is good. And I was like kind of lazy and I was like, I'll just buy it. I'll just buy it on PS5.
Dude, I played the demo also and it was really good. And it was one of those things. Can you hear the text noise going off in my headphones?
No.
Okay,
good,
cool.
Bro.
So it's just driving me crazy. Perfect.
Just driving me crazy.
Man, I like it. That text noise derails like all my thoughts.
Bing,
so
bing.
let's just move on.
The demo. The demo was good. All right. Today, breaking news: Charles Martinet is no longer going to be the voice of Mario for games going forward. So Nintendo put out a tweet, and it said, "We have a message for fans of the Mushroom Kingdom. Please take a look." And so it's like just red background, Nintendo logo, 2 paragraphs. Charles Martinet has been the original voice of Mario in Nintendo games for a long time, as far back as Super Mario 64. Charles is now moving into the brand new role of Mario Ambassador. With this transition, he will be stepping back from recording character voices for our games, but he'll continue to travel the world sharing the joy of Mario and interacting with you all. It has been an honor working with Charles to help bring Mario to life for so many years, and we want to thank and celebrate him. Please keep an eye out for a special video message from Shigeru Miyamoto and Charles himself, which we will post at a future date.
Stay tuned. Interesting.
End of an era is what I've seen a lot of people saying on the X, the Hell platform we were just complaining about. But yeah, I mean, like, this is really cool, but also kind of crazy to think about since when did Mario 64 come out? 96, 98?
96, I believe.
I mean, almost 30 years he has been the voice of Mario. And he freaking crushed it. Like, we only really know Mario as Charles Martinet.
True. And I mean, has he ever actually had a line of dialogue, or is it just like one word at a time? But and I say that to say that there is so much characterization in those, sound effects. It's I have an attachment to that voice. It's silly and goofy. But dude, I listened to the Super Mario Brothers Wonder trailer, and it sounds just like him. So it's not him for that one.
It's not him. I think there was when that trailer came out, I think there were a few people who were like, I think the voices for Mario is different. Like, people were starting to like hear a little bit,
like
and then
some crazy audio files. Like, how do you even like, honestly, to the layman, it's not going to sound any different at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, but they found it. So all I'm going to say is congrats, Charles. That's really cool.
Yeah, it sounds like a cool role. I'm excited to see what comes next. And
he's just going to go around and just, everyone's going to want his autograph still, and he's going to be Mario pretty much. He's just going to be the voice of Mario. I feel bad for the new person who's voicing him. It's like, yeah, I'm just the new Mario, I guess. Mario.
It's cool that like Nintendo really stumbled on something when they chose him as the voice actor for Mario, because there aren't really many voice actors that have become like a separate entity, or almost he's not the face of the character. That's too strong. But a lot of people have a correlation to him.
He is the personality of Mario for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So that's cool.
It's kind of like, what's his name that voices Joel?
Troy Baker, but
Troy Baker, yeah.
Troy Baker's got so much
He's got a lot going
in the
on.
industry. So it's hard for me to associate with him with just that. But yes, you're right.
He is Joel for a lot of people. Yeah. So now it's Pedro Pascal for a lot of people, but I digress. All right. Well, speaking of Joel, Landry, let's jump into the topic of the show, shall we? Dude,
let's do it. I'm really excited about this.
So bring us up to speed on what inspired this. What brought on the PS3?
I'm a sucker for top 10 list, top 25 list, top 5 list. I look them up on YouTube all the time. I have a lot of opinions on what makes a game great and what would be included on my list as well. And as I was making the show notes, I was just texting you like, dude, there's not a lot of interesting news that I want to cover. Like, I'm sure we could drum up something interesting. And the only thing I could think of was Starfield's coming out soon, and we could talk about that. But like, that just didn't really interest me that much. So I was like, why don't we just do like an old retro console kind of top 10 list? And I talked about PlayStation 3 or Wii or GameCube, and you didn't give me a response. So I was like, you know what? We're going to do PlayStation 3 because that is my favorite of those consoles.
I love it.
Honestly, man, as I was making this list and thinking about the console, I landed in a place that I didn't even expect to land. And I think PlayStation 3 is my second favorite video game console of all time behind the Super Nintendo. Just as far as innovative titles go, titles that are just like, they spawn like whole franchises, incredible replayable titles that I want to go back to over and over again. And if I had to have like the top 25 games in a library, I think about the Super Nintendo and the PlayStation 3. There's just so much there to play, so much variety, and really fantastic stuff. And I think that PlayStation 3 is where 3D gaming hit its real stride, whereas Super Nintendo was where 2D gaming hit its like peak. So
yeah,
we'll talk about the lists, and at the end, I think we're going to do our top 6, and then
let's do top 5. Let's do our top 5.
Top 5.
Keep it nice and even, because you have a little rundown list afterwards.
And then afterwards, I'm going to just like speed blitz through my top 25, just so we can like reflect on how many incredible titles this console has that are still, talked about today in the industry. And if not talked about in the industry directly, they have sequels or reiterations in the industry kicking around right now.
Let's freaking do it, brother. I messed up my list. I messed it up. I was trying to move some things around. There we go.
Okay,
that works.
Cool.
Okay.
The only reason I want to do top 6 is because the 6th game on your list earlier was one that we had to talk about. And if not, I was going to have to shake some things up. Okay,
I bumped it into 5. Don't worry.
Cool, because that game rips.
All right. You want to start us off with your number 5?
Yeah, and really, like, a lot of these, it's hard to even put them in numerical order, but Red Dead Redemption is what I have for number 5. It is a game that sparked a love of Westerns in me that had been kind of buried. Like, my dad always grew up. When I was growing up, hold up, dude. I gotta change the text on my phone. It's literally like wrecking my head. I have a work conversation going on, and they're just like going ham, and I can't think.
Put on that do not disturb.
Yeah, I did. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Let's just take it from the top.
No, you're good. I like it. Westerns. Your dad.
Number 5, Red Dead Redemption. So yeah. Growing up, my dad would always have on like Gunsmoke or Bonanza. And to be 100% honest, I hated those shows. However, in college, I took a survey of American literature course. And like my first day was at a community college. The teacher or instructor came in. He was not a professor, not at that level. And he was like, I know it says American literature on it, but we're in night school and no one's ever going to look at this course rubric. So this is not American Literature 2. You are taking, it was a Western expansion in the American Dream, is basically what he titled the course. And we watched a ton of Westerns and compared them to a lot of American literature. And
interesting.
It was actually a really awesome class. But during that course, Red Dead Redemption came out. So I was like steeped in great classic Western cinema and
video games.
Playing Red Dead Redemption, and there's so many scenes that Red Dead Redemption just rips right out of like John Ford's classic Westerns. And, just the scenery is absolutely gorgeous. The soundtrack's amazing. And the idea that you can just like, you have this open world and you're a cowboy and you can kind of play black hat or white hat and, be a bad guy or a mostly good guy who just has to color outside the lines a little bit is just so much fun, man. And the story was pretty good. It was a little long in the tooth. I think there's a moment in the game where everybody kind of drops off because things just get way too open, where there's just not a lot going on in the kind of landscape. But man, if you see the game through, the story hits really hard, and it's just an experience I'll never forget. And honestly, I like Red Dead Redemption 1 a lot better than Red Dead Redemption 2.
Well, hey, you have a chance to replay it again with the remaster that just came out.
Yes, I fully intend to do that. I haven't played it since 2010, so I can't wait to go back to it.
You can play it on Switch, play it on PS5. You can play it wherever you want to, man.
I know. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Play it in all the places. Well, that's awesome. Yep. Yeah. So, quick bit of context. I have not played the original RDR, but I know it's a lot of people's favorite. And the Undead Nightmare, that was a DLC pack that came with it, right?
Yeah.
People freaking love that. I remember that.
Yeah, I played that. And to be honest, it did not hit for me the same way it did for everybody else, but it was really cool. And it was a really cool DLC at the time that I think showed people that DLC could be more than what it had been in the past. And
not just cosmetics. It was more of like, hey, here's a whole story thing that comes with it. And it's a whole sort of different slice of this game you could play.
Yeah. It wasn't like a new horse in Skyrim. It felt like a full new game. So
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I never had a PS3. My brothers both had PS3s. It was kind of this weird period of time where I had the Xbox 360 and I think I had a Nintendo console. and I had to make the choice if I wanted to stay with 360 or stay with Nintendo. And I'm pretty sure I just stayed with 360 all the way through that generation. I
Nice.
didn't have any interest to get a PS3 at the time. And so I didn't really play a lot of these games until I got a PS4. So thankfully, a lot of the games that were on PS3 that maybe some people missed were brought over in like remastered versions or whatever else, or collections. And so I got a chance to play a lot of stuff. And so on my list for number 5, I have Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch. And I freaking loved this game. I remember when it came out, I texted a good friend of the show, Stephen Palmer. He and I were both Miyazaki nerds. And I was like, bro, they got freaking Joe Hisashi composing music for this game. And it looks like it's like some of the half of the animation team from Studio Ghibli is designing the characters in this. And it's like, was it level 5? Is that who did it? And I'm just like, I was like, this is the dream game for me. Like, this is exactly what I want in an RPG. And I was like, you need to buy this game. And I basically like, he'd already known about it, but he and I just nerded out, and I got to sort of experience the game through him via osmosis. But then it came out, I got a PS4, and I actually ended up picking it up, I think, for real cheap, and played the whole game.
Remastered version fell in price real fast.
And it's just lovely. It's just a lovely game, like a pretty good, heartfelt story. Combat wasn't anything to write home about, but what it did accomplish, I think, was just, again, bringing some of that Ghibli design and orchestration to a video game. And that's like all I could ever want. I'm like, yeah, I want more of this. If Studio Ghibli ever does this again, like I'm there, so I loved it. Didn't really see a lot of good reviews about the second one. People were kind of like, yeah, it's fine. Like
it was not like terrible reviews. I think it was like middling, around this high 70s, low 80s.
Yeah. But the biggest complaint there was the different gameplay mechanics. Like, it wasn't as much of a turn-based RPG anymore. It was more of like a Pikmin, sort of like you're managing your little monsters and like having them attack, and it's kind of a weird.
Well, I mean, the first game is really like it's got like a Pokemon-esque type gameplay. Like, you're catching monsters and using them. And I thought the story was really good, especially like the first 2 or 3 hours of the game, where you're just, before you kind of go into the fantasy world. Like, I don't know why it hit really hard. It came out right around the time of The Last of Us, and I remember thinking at the time, like, this is one of my favorite RPG experiences. And The Last of Us is just this incredible game, but any other year this would be like a game of the year for me. It was so good, and the animation was incredible. I also a big Studio Ghibli fan, and the fact that they had their animation team on it, and then the Level 5 team that was developing it was responsible for Dragon Quest VIII, and that is just a huge game for me. Huge game for me, and the PS2 era, for as far as like getting into RPGs in the first place back then. So really, really good stuff.
So freaking good. All right, man. Number 4, what you got?
Number 4.
Yeah,
I'll never be able to do that like you. It's that's
yes, you
sad.
can. Just gotta believe.
Number 4 for me is Skyrim. Probably one of the most played games for me in my past. I played the crap out of it on PS3.
I still haven't played it.
Oh man. It's such a good video game, and played it on Switch twice. Skyrim will just always be that first open world RPG where everything clicked for me, and I was like, wow, this is what the future of open world video games can be, where not only it's not about like the choice for me, it's about walking up to any character in a village and never knowing which one's going to launch you into a 45-minute story about their life or about what's going on with them, or take you, their story is going to take you into a crypt and you're going to find like some incredible armor that looks awesome and then also has really cool lore. It is attached to another side quest on the other end of the map. And it's like, dude, everything. I remember an X-Play review at the time where the narrator for it might have been Adam Sessler or Morgan Webb or whatever. And they basically were like, we do not understand how Bethesda had the time or energy to make this game at all. Like, it doesn't make sense to us because every cave has something unique inside of it. Like, there's so much, like you could spend hundreds of hours and not see everything in the game. And with the expansion packs, you know, it's even more now. And it's just having played the game so much and knowing that there's still stuff I haven't seen doesn't bother me. Even though I'm like a completionist, it's just, I always know that I'll have that world to go back to. And, you know, I can go chill in Whiterun and have, you know, join a guild and see like a different side of the game I never saw because I wasn't in that guild before.
Listen to some tunes.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, the soundtrack rips.
Some freaking good music, dude.
Yeah. And then, you know, if you want to like get weird with it, you can just go and like look up fun Skyrim glitches to pull off and have another, you know, few hours that way, because those games are so janky, and the glitches you can find are hilarious and kind of fun to pull off as well. So hey, there's just a lot of that game will give you a lot of stuff for, you can pick it up. I got it for 45 cents on the PS3 the other day, but I recommend I don't remember the PS3 version. I recommend the Switch version or the PS5 version.
45 cents on the PS3. Why did you even buy that, Landry?
PS3 games are so cheap right now, and some of them are really great, and a lot of them are locked to the PS3. Skyrim is not. But why did I buy a 45-cent video game? I don't know, Jake. Why not?
You're
why
right.
not?
You're right. I've spent 45 cents on way dumber things.
Yeah.
Follow-up question for you, though. The Skyrim did not come out on PS3 initially. It was on Xbox first, right?
Pretty sure it was like a week difference. But the thing was that
I thought
the
it was longer than
PS3
that.
version was
broken, right?
Yeah, it was broken at first. They fixed it. They patched it out. Like, that's where I played it initially, and I never had any problems. You know, besides your normal Bethesda problems. Like, if you play a Bethesda game, I feel like after playing, you know, what was it, Morrowind and then Oblivion and then Skyrim, you just kind of expect that the game's going to crash on you every once in a while, and like things are going to be janky and buggy.
Yeah,
to an extent. But when the PS3 version launched, it was beyond that. It was a mess. It was like similar to how Cyberpunk launched on the PS4. What was that, a year ago or so?
Yeah,
they fixed it up pretty quick though.
Yeah, I don't remember being that long. I remember just, I know that there was like some exclusivity, and then like the backlash of Skyrim not working as well on PS3. I remember that.
Yeah, dude, Xbox 360 had a lot of the edge on a lot of the third-party titles back then. But the thing about Xbox 360 that sucked was the consoles were terrible and they would break. So, like, that's what happened to mine. So,
yeah. Ugh. Sad times.
Yeah.
All right. My number 4 is another one that I played on PS4. In fact, I think almost all of these I played on PS4. But Flower. This is I think the second game from that game company. The first one I'm blanking on was Flow. Thank you. And yeah, I had never even played a game like this. The Flower was the first game that I played by that game company. And it basically, you're playing as a petal that is just flying through the wind. And you use the dual or the 6-axis in the controller to control the direction of, you know, your pedal as it flies through these open areas. And it all goes to like the beat of, or the orchestration of a theme behind it. So as you collect more pedals, it'll like play a tune behind it, and it'll speed up as you speed up. And it tells a story about, you know, environmental pollution. And you like, it kind of does this little like arc where you start in a beautiful field and it's kind of peaceful. And then it kind of goes through some pretty unique areas. And then you get into like cities where there's like a ton of pollution and oil and all kinds of stuff. And the music changes and it kind of gets more,
it's intense, man.
Ominous or scary almost. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I don't like being here. This is sad. And there's like very few pedals that you can like reach to make music with. And it's kind of depressing. But then it ends on like a happier note and you get back into the city and everything's fine. But I remember just being blown away because, like, again, I just got my PS4. I'm pretty sure this game was like almost available like right at the start. I had the headphones on, so I had like full immersive like surround, and I was like using the control, and it was like changing colors like on the light bar on the front, and I was like, this is amazing. And it was just such a cool experience.
Well, that's exactly the experience that I had with the PS3 version, because that was if not the first game that I got, it was on like the first downloadable game that I got. I think it was like I had Ratchet and Clank, Uncharted 2, and Flower. And yeah, it was just like a new artistic achievement in video games I had never seen before. Like, you know, being moved emotionally without any, dialogue whatsoever. And you're just playing as the wind. But the places that the places that game takes you visually and then musically, it's not like dissimilar to like listening to an orchestra live or something, like you can be moved emotionally through that. And that's the same way that Flower did. And the game development side of that game is interesting too. I've read like some game vlog or seen some game vlogs about how the designers initially wanted to like have all of these extrinsic motivators in the game, and you had to collect things, and there were time limits, and they stripped all that out because they realized that it was like more of this Zen type of experience. And, that's what they became known for. And I think, capitalized on a later game that we're going to talk about in a minute. But Flower for me hits the hardest of what they've done, because it was the first time that I saw it on PlayStation 3. And it just, it was just so cool.
So impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, there are certain games every console generation that show off the hardware and the accessories, like the 6-axis controller. Movement like that, like I don't know if it's gyro or whatever they do in the 6-axis controller, but like using the controller to move was an interesting and cool thing to do when motion control back then was like all the rage, and that was pretty neat. So
but it only worked in this instance because it didn't have to be precise. Like when you have to use motion controls and you need precision, also it sucks. You're like, this is a bad design choice. Why did you do this to
Lair, the dragon game for PS3, that game was not a good example of that.
You do not want to have to use precision control motion controls. That's a bad time. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, man. What's your number 3?
Number 3. Oh man, gosh, this console is so good. BioShock. These top 3 games, really the top 5 games, they're just like all timers for me. I mean, but BioShock is just one of those games that, in the PS3 generation, I think did this to me so many times, where I was like, wow, video games are getting to a level where they actually require like critical thought and deep analysis. And, I'm not going to feel like a complete fool or child for playing them well into my 30s or 40s or 50s, because they're offering up experiences that, can provide, deep and meaningful analysis, and maybe even academic, scholarly, pieces on. And this is also a game that, introduced me to new concepts like objectivism and collectivism and different philosophies and Ayn Rand, and being able to compare BioShock to other writers' thoughts and political ideologies. And there's all that is kind of extracurricular, but the actual game is just this terrifying and visually breathtaking kind of a Metroidvania. And, maybe the best 3D game, Metroidvania I've ever played. I would say it's even better than Metroid Prime.
Whoa. Okay.
It's just so fun and so interesting. And the big daddies and the little sisters, and they've just
spooky.
Ken Levine created this world that is captivating, terrifying, and even if I've replayed it multiple times, and every time I just I don't remember certain things about it that blow my mind all over again.
Oh, it's been a long time since I've played this game. I think the last time I played it, honestly, was on the 360. And I remember having to play that intro at least 3 times because I got too scared and turned the game off. I remember I remember
You're going to the elevator and you like suddenly get like, yep,
like the
exactly.
the splicers or what are they called? What are the people that
Splicers? Yeah.
do they like inject themselves?
So this was the game that made me buy a PS3 because I had BioShock on the 360. 360 was the first console of the generation that I bought in 2007-ish. And I think I had Fable 2, like Madden 2K, and then
some good stuff.
BioShock. Yeah.
Some
and then,
good stuff.
Yeah, Red ringed on me. I sent it back 6 months later. It comes back to me. It's working for literally 2 days. Red ringed on me again. And I can't remember exactly what happened, but the second time they wouldn't fix it for free.
Dude.
They wanted to charge me like $125. So
that's brutal.
They sent it back to me. I stuffed it in a closet. And every time I looked at it from then on, I just got mad. And then eventually I bought a PS3 and played through the rest of BioShock on that. So
wow. What a redemption story for BioShock. Finally making it over to PS3 and being able to play it there instead with no red rings of death.
Dude, I actually, I was so desperate to fix my 360. I remember reading on the internet that if you baked it in the oven at 250 degrees,
I remember this.
It would like overheat something just the right amount that it would work. And I melted the whole hard drive in the...
You ding dong.
I don't know. I think I read 350 instead of 250 or something, but like everything messed up.
I would never be that brave. But I do remember that story about like reheating the element to like resolder or like reattach whatever was going wrong on the inside of the chip. It would kind of remelt it to it. Oh, you're crazy. You're crazy for putting that in the freaking...
But it was the last hurrah. I was like, oh, I'm not paying $125. I already paid them however much it was. It was
this thing's already useless. I'm just going to go ahead and try it anyways. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, man. I respect that. But yeah, BioShock is fabulous, and I would like to play through it again. I know that I think I own it. I think I have it on a collection that came out on PS Plus or somewhere somehow.
Probably,
I might even have it on Switch. I don't even know. Dude. All I know is that I have it somewhere, and I would like to go back to it. But I almost think, has that game been remastered?
Yeah, it has. The remaster's great.
Okay.
I played the remaster on Switch. No, I played it on PS4. And it was awesome.
Okay. That would be my preferred way to play it, at least, just remastered. But a remake would be sick, too. But I guess it hasn't been long enough.
They don't need a remake.
Hasn't been long enough yet. Yeah, it's fine.
It's perfect.
All right. My third game, I swapped this one out because I felt more strongly about this than the one I had previously. So we'll mention that one later for honorable mention. But PlayStation All-Star Battle Royale. And not the Battle Royale you're thinking of. This is not a Fortnite, all right, guys? This is the Smash Bros. Clone that PlayStation was trying to capitalize on. They wanted to see if they could recreate something akin to Super Smash Bros. And it didn't quite land.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see this on your list. I've never heard people say good things about it. I never played it.
But gosh dang it. If they had just stuck with it, fine-tuned some of the elements of like what made it a little bit less engaging and then just made a sequel or something a little bit better, like they had it all right there. They have PlayStation used to own, they don't own it as much anymore, but they have so many mascots. Like you could play as Crash, you could play as Parappa the Rapper, you could play as the girl from Heavenly Sword, like the guy from Infamous, I'm pretty sure is in there. Like you could play as so many people, and I'm like, this is so cool. Like to see these other fringe characters that maybe wouldn't get the spotlight now showing up in a game just like Smash Bros. And I love Smash Bros. This is why it's on my list. I'm a huge Smash Bros. Person, so for me, I'm like, yeah, this game rips. I love anything like this, and I want more of it. So for me, when this game came out, I remember we spent so many hours playing this because we were a Smash Bros. Family. So my brothers had it on their PS3, and we would just play this all night. And again, it wasn't as good as Smash Bros., but something about just that formula of just beating the crap out of somebody else or 4 other people in the same arena as, Parappa the Rapper is just something else you can't really compete with.
Yeah, man. It's such a cool concept. And PlayStation has the IP power to float a game like this. Like it'd be cool to play as Nathan Drake or Joel or Ellie, But my question to you is like, what about the game why do you think it didn't hit with everybody else? What held it back?
I'm trying to remember the exact mechanic, but it was the knockout mechanic that didn't really connect with me. In Smash Bros, the idea is as you get more percentage, you get sent further, and then at a certain point, you get knocked off the map, can't make it back, or you get completely obliterated and get shot into like the blast zone. Whereas PlayStation All Stars, I think it was like, I'm trying to remember the exact like damage mechanic, but it just didn't. It wasn't as satisfying. I'm trying to pull up a gameplay video really quickly. So like, yeah, you had like a gauge that you could like charge up or like let down, and then you could still get sent off the map, but it just never felt as satisfying. So I think if they fix that, just fix that, it'd be great.
Cool. Well, maybe they'll make a sequel sometime because
One day.
I love PlayStation's history. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking at this gameplay footage right now. It's freaking great. They got like Sweet Tooth on here. They got Fat Princess.
Dude, Fat Princess. That's
Kratos,
hilarious.
Sly Cooper. I mean, this is great. This is what you want in a game. Just clean it up. And
Fat Princess
back in.
was so much fun. Little capture the flag
man.
online game.
I know, dude. I almost had it. All right. Yours.
Okay, so we're still in 10 out of 10 territory.
Number 2.
Probably the top 5. This whole list is 10 out of 10s probably for me. Uncharted 2 was one of those games where like was jaw-dropping for me. I couldn't believe that a game had like this kind of blockbuster narrative experience. And in no way was this like a thought-provoking game, but it was just like oh my gosh, they made a game with like a fun narrative, incredible dialogue that like moves the story and pacing, and acting is really brilliant. They just made like an Indiana Jones movie and then a really cool video game as well. And I love the characters. I love like the setting of the game, the gameplay, the difficulty curves. Getting the platinum on Uncharted 2 is a lot of fun. Everything about this game is amazing, and it's what kind of solidified or started to solidify Naughty Dog as one of my favorite game developers, because I had already loved Crash Bandicoot. Like for the PlayStation, I had Crash Bandicoot 2 and 3 and absolutely adored those games. And then I had the Jack trilogy on PlayStation 2. So I was already familiar with them. But man, Uncharted 2 just hit this new high, this new peak. And I really think if we were to do like a retrospective on narrative video game design, I think that Uncharted 2 is one of the most influential in the history of video games. Just the fluidity between gameplay and cutscenes, like the way that they started doing transitions is like ubiquitous now in the industry. It's like a standard.
The walk-in where you see him come into frame and then it just goes into the gameplay after that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cinematic camera angles and the quality of voice acting, the expectations that we now have for even games like Final Fantasy, which, for a long time, JRPGs had this kind of, the voice acting wasn't that great. And we just kind of we understood that was going to be a thing. But now these AAA games have AAA voice acting talent. And it's become a huge part of the medium and a huge part of what makes, I think, this hobby so mainstream. And Uncharted 2, just, also the sequencing, the action set pieces, just incredible.
Mwah, chef's kiss. Mwah, chef's kiss. Yeah, I remember. So I played this on the collection that came out on PS4. Another one. Because again, didn't have PS3, didn't play these games, but I know people loved them. And I was like, I got to do this because Uncharted 4, I think, was about to come out on the PS4. And I was like, I should probably catch up on these before I jump in. And I love the way that collection was, brought over to that console.
Blue Point. That was a Blue Point game. Great.
They tuned up the first game. I think Drake's Fortune or whatever the first one is called, where, the aiming was
that game.
a little shady, like a little shoddy, like gunplay was just not great. But like, story was kind of there.
People say that, and like, I just don't get it. Like, I think the aiming is perfect in the remake of Drake's Fortune, but everybody says that. It's like, I'll never understand why people don't think that Donkey Kong controls well in Donkey Kong Country, and why people think that aiming and gun control in Uncharted games is bad. Like, I don't understand those two things because they both like hit so hard for me.
Yeah, they did at the time. That's the difference. So you at the time, that game played totally fine, made sense, and it was revolutionary potentially for its time, because you're like, nothing else has done this before, and it feels better than anything I've played like this. And then you play future games, and time and technology improves, and they learn how to make games better, and they play a lot better. And so then when you go back to those, you're like, ooh, this is not as easy to play anymore because of like the way my brain is wired now. I mean, like GoldenEye is a great example of this. Like at the time, GoldenEye was incredible, so easy like to comprehend, and moving the reticle around the screen with the C sticks made sense, and you just dealt with it. But like trying to play that now after like having a dual joystick setup, I'm like, this is trash. Like trying to play this is so bad. Like this is the worst.
I agree.
Not to that degree. Not to that degree with, of course, with Uncharted.
We're in different ballparks. We're in
still
different
playable with the old controller scheme, but it still was not like, I think comparatively, like them having brought the controls up to snuff with sort of where we are now, it was helpful for me because I could jump into that like, okay, yeah. It still felt a little clunky, like movement wise, compared to like 3 and 2. You're like, wow, there's a big jump between 1 and 2 and then 2 to 3. Like what they were trying to do with a vehicle, exploration and combat, and just traversal. Like there's just so much more they were doing in the later games. But that first game set the groundwork for it. So yeah, I loved all those games. Thought they were good. Uncharted 2, I think, was probably the standout of the first 3 for me. And then Uncharted 4, I think, was just fabulous. So
yeah, so good. I mean, I like the whole trilogy, but 2 is the one for me.
That's the one.
All right, man. Hit us with your. Well, we both have the same last game.
Well, I have my second one I got to do really quick. So
exciting.
So Journey, another game from that game company. You've probably heard of it. And I really like it for a lot of the same reasons I liked Flower. But this one, again, I think I got it. And I know I played it on PS4, but I'm trying to remember when I actually picked it up. Because I think it came to PS4 actually a little bit later than Flower did, or maybe not. I don't know. Anyways, I remember people going nuts about this game and just singing its praises. And I was like, I want to check this out eventually. And I finally had the chance to do that. And it was everyone's like, you got to play this kind of moment. And I think the only thing that held this back from being like the most impressive game for me was like what you're saying, Landry. I'd already played Flower and kind of had that sort of fresh experience with this kind of game, a game like this, where it's open and beautiful and you're just kind of just supposed to explore and move around, and the story kind of tells itself as you move through the environment. But also it's a game that's somewhat dependent upon online play. That's kind of the fun little behind the scenes thing they don't tell you, but if other people are playing at the same time as you, they can actually enter into like the same area as you, and you don't really know their name, you don't know who, but it's another player actually physically in your space, and you can kind of just see them. If you see each other, you walk up to each other and you can kind of do little funny dances and jump around and stuff, and then you can actually progress through the whole game if you want to with that same person. It's not a very long game, but the idea is you make it through, and then there's this beautiful story of like you finally get to the very top. Your journey is concluding at this very end, and you've maybe come along with these 2 other people, and you're all dying together, and it's like really sad and heartfelt. And you're like, oh, like my friend that I've made this whole journey with is over there, and they're about to die, and like I'm just seeing them like wither away on this mountain. And then of course there's this huge burst of energy and rebirth, and you're flying around and everything's beautiful and gorgeous and happy again. But that moment, unfortunately, although it could have been very impactful, was not impactful for me because I didn't have anybody else that was on the mountain with me when I played.
Oh man.
I was just like, I saw like some grave sites, but like there wasn't somebody with me like trudging through the mountain snow at the very top. And I'm just like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to die up here, I guess. And then I came back to life. Spoilers if you haven't played it. Dude, sorry, I should have spoken at the front.
That game was, I remember the first time I fired it up because I was pretty excited about it for Flower. And then like the reviews started hitting and I was like, okay, I didn't expect this to be one of the best reviewed games of all time. Or like at the time, it was like, I can't remember exactly, but it was the 90s. It was going to be game of the year, almost a shoe-in, the way that critics were talking about it. And it was, I played it upon release or around that time. So I had a lot of online players with me. And I'd never played a game like that before. I don't know if this is pre-Dark Souls or post-Dark Souls. I think it was probably post-Demon Souls, pre-Dark Souls. But I'd never seen the concept of online multiplayer without like logging on with a friend and playing with them, or like knowing that they were there.
Somebody random has entered your game. I'm like, okay.
I was meeting these things and I was doing what you were saying, like, interacting with them, but I had no idea they were real people. And that was part of the mystery and mystique of the game back then. And you get to the end and you see all these characters that you've been trudging along the way with. And honestly, I didn't know they were like different people. I was like, well, I just thought this was the same little bozo popping out. Like, I was frustrated the whole first playthrough because I thought it was telling me something. And I was like, the heck are you trying to tell me, dude? Like, I'm following you everywhere and we're going in circles and like, I'm going back to where I want to go.
Let's go up here, dude. Like, we're wasting time over here. I
could not get it. And at the very end, you see the screen names of the people you've been playing with. And it wasn't until my dumb brain saw that on the screen that everything clicked into place into what had been happening. And it was this
shared journey.
Yeah. And it was like, that sounds cheesy, but it wasn't. It was a very cool experience, and it flipped my whole feeling on the game because honestly, it was a game that I powered through. I was frustrated with it because of the online interaction, and I've never experienced a game like that where I was so frustrated because I didn't understand, and at the very end, it finally clicked and I understood what had been happening, and I was like, I've got to replay this again because
now I'd
been fighting against every single person that was, with me. Mm-hmm. And man, what a unique and interesting experience. It did not hit as hard emotionally for me as Flower did. And a lot of that maybe because the first opening areas are in a desert and I just hate that color palette. I hate the aesthetic
oranges,
just oranges and yellows and dusky browns, but you're in that area for a long time too.
That's what I loved. But I think the art direction,
the second half of the game, dude, is like
it's kind of spoopy.
On the Ascension, you get spooky, but then the part you were talking about where you're in the sky and everything, it's like not only are the visuals incredible, but again, it's the score. The score for that game is really on point. And also, that game does control better than Flower. Like there are some moments where you're just having a blast sliding down a hill. And it's like, well, this is like Super Mario 64 slide level fun. Like I'm just having a blast right now.
Just sliding with my buddy over here. We're just going down this big old sand hill right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the music. I'm looking at my list now, and we've talked about this before, but music is always going to be a huge factor for me. If it's got good music, I'm already way more invested than I would be otherwise. So like, yeah, I mean, Ni no Kuni, Joe Hisashi, come on, dude. Flower, great music. PlayStation All Stars, Journey, great music. And then this last one, we'll talk about here in a second. So,
Red Dead has an incredible soundtrack.
It does too, yeah. So let's talk about our number one, because we have a shared number one for top PS3 games. I'm sure everyone here probably already knows what it is.
It's The Last of Us.
It's The Last of Us. Wow. Who would have thought?
Dude,
I'll let you start us off.
I don't even know where to start with this game. It's like so important to me as someone who's played video games, and everything that the PS3 had been kind of teaching me about video games, how they were turning into a more mature hobby, less childish, less of something that I had to be ashamed of in my 20s, that I was still, playing and, kind of a part of that community. The Last of Us just was like, okay, if you weren't sure, you're going to be sure now, because we're taking this to like Cormac McCarthy levels of violence and narrative, but also, dwelling on themes that you're not used to seeing in video games. This isn't the popcorn flick that Uncharted is. We're going to be talking about love and loss and, trying to overcome being hardened by the world, and just there's so many different things at play.
Sadness and darkness everywhere.
Yeah, sadness, darkness, not losing, yourself in, just nihilism and, thinking that it's not worth pressing on and that kind of stuff. So there's just a lot of really cool things going on in the story and narrative. And we've talked so much about this in the past, but it's hard to even start anywhere with this game.
Yeah. What I'll say is The Last of Us is the only game really that my wife has like wholeheartedly like loved because she watched it from start to finish. I picked it up again for PS4, remastered, one of the games that I missed. And I was like, we got to play this game, or I got to play this game. It's regarded as one of the best, and it's got this great story, and you might like it. And we were dating at the time. I remember just like starting it, and she was like sitting on like the couch or the bed, like in the room, and I was just like in front of the TV, like playing. And before I knew it, it had been like a few hours, and she was just still there, just like watching the entire time. And she was like asking questions. She's like, oh, "Who is that? Like, what's going on?" And she was so invested, and I was too. And so, I mean, that's the highest praise I can give it. Is just like it's such an enthralling story that I think pairs perfectly with the gameplay style that it is. Third person cover shooter. And it gives you the ability to explore some areas that are just gorgeous and like really well designed and also horrifying. And I mean, there's really nothing wrong with this game. It's just all around fabulous. So
I remember when the game came out, the opening sequence, which has now been redone by the show pretty well. It's probably the highlight of the show is the first episode. It's all downhill from there if you're watching. Yeah, I remember the first 30 minutes of that game. I wanted everyone to play it. Like, I was dating Liz at the time, my wife, and I made her play it. And she was like, this is crazy. And then we had a really good friend, Mallory, and like both of them played through it, and neither of them had ever played a video game. And I made them play it at separate times. And then I let Ryan borrow my PS3 at the time. Ryan Darling, who's been on a couple of our Last of Us pods.
Yep.
I let him borrow it for like 2 weeks just to play The Last of Us. It's like, dude, you have to play this video game. It is absolutely better than, I think anything that we could have expected video games to be. And he wasn't really much of a gamer back then. He'd kind of been a lapsed gamer, like so many of us have gone through those moments. But I like to think that's one of the things that hooked him back into the hobby. So maybe that was a friend move, or maybe it was a bad thing to do. I don't know, but
it was the right thing.
It's been so much fun talking about this game, thinking about this game for the past decade. And I will be honest, the show has kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I feel like they whiffed on the finale, which is the biggest talking point of the whole series probably. And I feel like that I don't understand how the director, the showrunner, seemed to have such a good grasp on it, and then they made some directive choices in that finale that literally made it forced your opinion of what was happening in the show. Like no one's going to walk away from the show and think that Joel did the right thing, and if you did, you're just like a sick person. But in the game,
sick maniac,
because of ludonarrative dissonance and the fact that we're conditioned as gamers to run through levels and shoot bad guys because they're bad guys. And in the cutscenes, that's the really heavy stuff. Like if we see a character do something like that, like killing somebody, that's going to really weigh with us. Like you see everything unfold on the screen, and it's not until afterwards, until the second game, that you realize the weight of Joel's actions have an effect. They just like a normal person, if you go through and do something terrible like that, there's going to be repercussions. And I don't know, man, this series, this game, including the second one, it's just a brilliant narrative design. Good. Yes.
So good. Can't believe they produced something like that on the PS3. It was near the end of the PS3's life cycle, but that's why it was so, I don't know, just astounding.
Yeah.
The PS3 had kind of, it had sort of lost the race to the 360 in terms of units sold and popularity and, market share. But then they released The Last of Us, and everyone was like, holy smokes, this is like one of the greatest games of our generation. Like this is
Was that like the Pokemon of, because I know PS3 wound up beating Xbox 360 right at the end.
Caught up right at the end. And it wasn't just because of The Last of Us, but that garnered a lot of goodwill and brought a lot of people back to PS3 and a lot of folks talking about it again. Because it was like, oh, The Last of Us, this is one of the greatest games ever made. Like, and it's only on PS3. Like, we gotta play this.
Yeah.
I think that brought them back into the conversation a little bit more than they had been prior. So a really cool story. Glad to have it as our number one. Good job us on our top.
Well done
top
to
fives.
You and me.
And we had only one crossover, so that's great. So real quick, Landry, do you want to rattle off the other 20 games you put on here? You absolute maniac.
I told you, man. Like doing this exercise, I just had to stop and think. Like, this is one of my favorite consoles of all time, and there's to be perfectly candid, 24 and 23 on this list I've never played. I've never played Mass Effect 2 or Metal Gear Solid 4. It's why they're so low. I kind of think Metal Gear Solid is the most overrated franchise of all time, but I can't wait to play the collection to find out if I'm wrong or right about that hunch.
I'm telling you said that.
Okay. These are in no certain order. I just want to list off some of the games that absolutely wreck on the PS3. Infamous 2.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have Infamous, of course. Borderlands, Mass Effect 2, Metal Gear Solid 4, Uncharted Drake's Fortune, Batman, Arkham Asylum, Batman, Arkham City, Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Ratchet and Clank, A Crack in Time, Flower, Journey, Braid. Braid was amazing, by the way. Portal 2, The Orange Box, which had Portal, Half-Life 2, Half-Life Episode 1 and Episode 2 for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Little Big Planet 2, an amazing platformer. Ratchet and Clank Future Tools of Destruction. Grand Theft Auto 4. Grand Theft Auto 5.
Grand Theft Auto 5 released on the PS3. I forgot about that.
Yes. The same year as The Last of Us and Ni no Kuni.
Been so long.
Great year for video games. NBA Jam On Fire Edition. That almost made my top 5, man. I freaking love that game. Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch. That's pretty much it. Borderlands 2 was also, I didn't even mention that one, but that was another one that everybody liked, except for me. I love Borderlands, though. The first one was great.
Borderlands. Man, that's another franchise that I haven't gotten into, but I know a lot of folks like the whole shooty.
It's a time waster. It's silly. And I liked the first one because it was cool and innovative concept, very Diablo, but like with first-person shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 came out. It was like bigger, better, more, but at the same time, it was like
more guns.
Okay, I can't wait. I can't really not feel like I'm wasting away my life because I'm just doing the same loop over and over and over and over again. So
the only other honorable mention that I had was like God of War, that series, that franchise.
I didn't even mention God of
War 3. But just like
God of War 3.
They all kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger and better. They kind of stole some of the mechanics from Shadow of the Colossus and just made them way more exciting. You're sprinting up the arms of a giant and stabbing him in the eye and doing all kinds of disgusting stuff and angry things. But, I think it gets a bad rap today because of how one note Kratos really was in all of those games. But
dude,
at the time, it was really cool. You're like, I'm doing some nut stuff.
The only reason I didn't like God of War 3 a ton, and I still liked it, it's like a solid 8, is I just thought 2 was better. I loved God of War 2, and I didn't think God of War 3 hit the same high notes. However, still a great game.
Still great. Real quick, by the way, your camera, I don't know if it's
what happened?
Our thing, but you're a fuzzy guy right now.
I think she's overheating.
She's getting tuckered out. It's been an hour.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a good way to close it out anyways. So yeah, there you have it, folks. If you haven't played any of those PS3 games, I would highly recommend them. I think you can play almost all of them on PS5 or PS4 if you have one of those. And you can play the much better versions, not the original 43-cent version of Skyrim. I think you can play Skyrim remastered at a lot of other places, so I'd recommend you do that. But yeah, a good time to be a gamer. And, I think another topic for another time would be like, what is the best console, like in terms of just absolute bangers across the board? That'd be a fun topic.
Bangers.
Absolute bangers. But unfortunately, all that is the end of our podcast. Listeners, what are some of your favorite PS3 games? Let us know by writing into bitcast@bitbloggist.com. Landry, once again, thank you so much for being the co-host with the most. Is there anywhere folks can find you on the interwebs or anything you want to plug?
Yeah, nothing to plug at the moment. X.com, Twitter, Soft Iconoclast. You can find me there. Say hello, I guess. Is that what people do on Twitter these days?
Just text you hi. Tweet you hi, Landry.
Yeah, I mean, I'll post the shows whenever they come up and or retweet whatever Jake posts, and that's where you'll see me.
Sick. All right, and for me, it's just BitBloggist, BitBloggist. You can go to bitbloggist.com and see all the content we have out there, and this will be up on the website as well. But also, really quick, wanted to shout out a little plug here. I'm going to be streaming potentially soon, and I put up a poll that was asking me about these 3 or 4 games. So if I was going to stream something, it'd be Ape Escape, Super Mario Galaxy, or Smash Ultimate. And right now, it's looking like a pretty close tie between Smash Ultimate and Ape Escape.
Dude, you're going to reveal your Smash skills to the internet? I guess you've already streamed that.
I've streamed a few times on there, but that has the most votes right now.
I voted for that, Jake. What do you think I voted for?
Probably Galaxy.
Yeah, you would think that. No, I voted for Ape Escape because that's...
You would think that.
I like that game quite a bit. I played it for the first time last year, and I don't know if you've ever played it, and I think you should. It's got some really interesting concepts.
I remember just playing the very first opening part of it and being like, I love this. You can swing your sword with the joystick. This is so cool. And then I just never went back. So yeah. It's on PlayStation right now. I think you can get it on like the catalog, and you can just get it for like $10.
Okay. Like that, so. I know it's on the premium edition.
Mm-hmm. So I just picked that sucker up and I'm playing it and I'm pumped. So
sweet.
Maybe we'll stream that one day next week. So look out for that. But unfortunately, that is the end, and I messed that up. Until next time, this has been BitCast. Thanks for tuning in to talk about some stuff.